Welcome to the Porn Reboot podcast, where you get practical tips to gaining control over your porn or sex addiction. We help ambitious men end their out-of-control sexual behavior with pornography, sex, and masturbation so that you can maximize your life, perform at your potential, and remain in control in the driver's seat, which is where you have to be in order to gain or maintain the success you want in life. I'm your host, J.K. Emezi, certified sex and porn addiction recovery coach. Welcome to the episode.
All right, we're going to be speaking about mindfulness and the late to maintenance stage of your reboot. This is an important episode. In the previous episode in this series, we talked about mindfulness and the middle stage of your reboot. We ended it by explaining that every time that you stay mindful and use attention and awareness the right way, your emotional reactions that you usually medicate with pornography, masturbation, or orgasm, they get weaker. And the less reactive you become over time, the more your self-esteem improves, the more you have confidence and you are encouraged and empowered to respond in a mindful, objective way. And this is what perpetuates a natural cycle of you being mindful and not slipping. So this actually means that the rebooting process becomes something pleasurable because you are now reinforcing good behavior. The good behavior is awareness. You're training your attention and your awareness to work for you. You are now learning how to harness the power of your unconscious mind. Again, if you're just hopping in and you haven't been listening to the past episodes, I recommend that you do so because it might seem that we're really in the deep end of the pool. And we're going to be going slightly deeper, and I actually decided I'm going to end the series here. The rest of the things I will deal with inside the program, but I'm going to summarize this last episode in a way that covers everything else you need to know about what mindfulness will do for you in the later stages of your reboot. Now, as I mentioned, the Porn Reboot program, one of the cornerstones is a mindfulness practice of some sort. But we've also created tools for those of you who don't know how to use mindfulness to guide you along, and it makes this process automatic and actually very easy. Now, while using the tools in your daily life is going to help your mindfulness, I also want to mention that having some sort of contemplative practice, preferably as a routine, is very helpful. This means a meditation of some sort. Whether it's a guided meditation using an app like Calm, or you are listening to one of my guided meditations from the podcast or within the program, or if you're just sitting silently using any sort of meditation technique that uses your attention and your awareness together, putting some time aside on a daily basis to do so is going to be very helpful. Now, it's not an absolute requirement that you do this, but I highly recommend it. Now, by the time you get to the late and maintenance stage of your reboot, you will already know the benefits of putting in the work. As a matter of fact, by the late to maintenance stage, you don't even need to wait for anything to trigger you for your unconscious program to begin doing its work. So, all that reprogramming that I talked about, it starts happening automatically. At this point, you don't even need to do anything. Something comes up, the process just begins. I also want to explain, I'm doing a lot of explaining over these different episodes, that this is not something I realized when I was going through my reboot. So please don't put too much pressure on yourself. My goal is to take all the things that I did and all the hard lessons that I learned. I was unconscious of doing many of these things because I was trying a lot of things. I was like at first desperately, then afterwards with a little bit more purpose and confidence, looking for different things that were going to support me. And I spent tens of thousands of dollars seeking help for this. So it doesn't matter what the system is that you are using right now. I'm familiar with it. I'm familiar with the founder. I'm familiar with the history. I'm familiar with everything. So I didn't know what was happening in the early stages of my reboot, but I'm explaining what you need to go through in order to enter the maintenance stage of your reboot and be completely free of this out of control behavior. When you have a quiet mind, and a quiet mind is cultivated during your morning routine, when you are doing your feelings exercise, when you are meditating, when you are in prayer, when you are reflecting and journaling, when you are dialoguing. All these things, we teach you how to do them within the Porn Reboot program. But what happens is your mindfulness allows deep memories, deep thoughts, and deep emotions to come to the surface. I don't know if this is the right analogy. I don't know how familiar you guys are going to be with this, but growing up, I would watch my mom cook. My mom is from Malaysia. I would see her preparing several dishes. So she would get like beans from our gardens or peanuts to make like a peanut sauce. And she would put them in a bowl of water. And she would wait for those that were bad or those that had been eaten by weevils or were rotten. When she put it in the bowl and washed it and left it for a while, those that were empty husks or those that were not edible would rise to the surface of the water. And she would pick those out and she would throw them away. And then she would cook with whatever was left, what was heavy, that had nutrients in it. The same thing happens when you apply mindfulness. Your mind quietens down. It's so important to have a quiet period at some point during the day. And for high-performing men, I recommend the morning. Early morning is one of the few times that you will ever be alone during the day. You know what I'm talking about. Truly alone, without the interruption of your phone or anything else. These memories, thoughts, and emotions, when they come to the surface, you have the ability to pick them out, to clean or purify everything that you have in that bowl that we call your mind, made up of your conscious and unconscious mind. And how do you do this? When you have that quiet time and you're being mindful, you are observing and non-reactively analyzing everything that comes up. See, every experience that you've ever had has left some sort of imprint on your unconscious mind. Sometimes the imprint is like drawing a line on water. It's gone as soon as your finger moves. Sometimes the imprint is like drawing a line in sand. It stays there for a while, and then it's gone once the winds blow. Sometimes the imprint is like using a hammer and chisel and drawing a line across rock. It stays there for a long time till the rock weathers away over decades or hundreds or who knows, even thousands of years. That's for rock, okay? We don't live that long. So that means that some things will stay with us forever. The more emotionally powerful the experience, the stronger the imprint. This includes positive and negative associations. And these experiences form the basis of our personality and the way that we view the world. You have a backlog, so to speak, of imprints. And the issue with these imprints is that many of them no longer fit with the person that you have become. So you now have a certain self-image, and all these past imprints have nothing to do with who you are today, but you don't know how to access these backlog of imprints. And because they don't fit with who you are today, they end up sabotaging you. And you keep wondering, well, why is it that I'm not able to make a certain amount of money in business? Why is it I'm not able to associate with certain types of people? Why is it that even though I have the time and the capacity, I'm afraid to go for certain investments or take certain risks? You don't know why, because when you look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, yeah, I'm a successful person. I know I can accomplish things. I feel deserving of things. What's holding me back? It is the mismatch between these emotionally powerful imprints on your unconscious mind and who you are today. Is this making sense? Do you now see one of the reasons why I emphasize habit change first? Then you must change your lifestyle. But in order to truly reboot and break free of your conditioning and start living your ideal life, not the black and white life of somebody who went through 12 steps or therapy program and identifies as a sober person. None of that stuff. Oh, I used to be an addict. No, to just move forward. I didn't choose to stay back. I moved forward already. I just looked back and I just felt fucking bad. Call it survivor's guilt. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to come back and I'm going to help my brothers. Because I know how fucking horrible it was. Even talking about it now makes me emotional. I came back to help brothers. But you must change your self-image. That's the final piece. These emotional imprints are buried very deep in your psyche. And I want to say a few things about them. Firstly, some of them are too painful for you to face. These are the ones that often manifest as trauma. You did not have any coping strategy or any frame of reference to deal with what happened to you. Sometimes it was abandonment, it was neglect, it was physical, sexual, religious, some sort of abuse, verbal abuse that occurred. And you just like, oh, that was so rough, but I didn't have the skills. So painful. Sometimes there are things that happened in your adult life or your teenage years, some acting out behavior you engaged in. Maybe you identify as a straight man, but you engage in gay sex on the down low, or you have sex with transgender individuals, or you're just confused about your sexuality and there's just nobody to talk about it, but you have a suspicion that porn had something to do with it. Now, I'm not saying that you're gay or you're not gay or you're bisexual or you're not bisexual. That's actually none of my business. And it's actually none of anybody else's business. It's your business to figure that out, though, and figure out what is going on. But I also want to acknowledge that it can be a painful thing to face. Like, fuck, the reality that I may be something else? What's going on? Sometimes you've hurt other people and you just can't face it. Now, sometimes these emotional imprints are even forgotten. This is one thing a lot of psychiatrists may not mention, that there are painful things that happen to us in childhood. But as our brain grows and develops, the places that these memories are stored are literally outgrown. Like they're squeezed out. They don't even exist anymore because the brain grows. So we actually have memories that fade and disappear. But the unconscious conditioning, the imprint and the impact that has on us still remains, even though we cannot address the memory. Sometimes you can't access a memory and hypnosis can take you back. Sometimes hypnosis has nothing to take you to because there's nothing left. But the imprint remains and it influences our behavior. This is why mindfulness is important. And to be transparent with you, this is the reason why I have doubled down on my mindfulness. I talked about that in the last episode. I've come to realize that even though I have moved past this aspect of my life that I speak about on the podcast, there are still many things that influence my behavior today. There are other things I'm trying to do in my life, even in my relationship. It is not perfect. We're now working through things. We seem to work through things every 7 years. And I speak to other couples and other professionals, and it seems like a normal thing. Like every 6-7 years or so, it's almost as if a monogamous relationship deals with some sort of crises. So that's where we're at right now. And I have to understand myself. But for you, brother, you have to do the same. This is what mindfulness will do for you, especially when it comes to this behavior that is having a negative impact on your life. If you are fearful or mistrustful of therapists for whatever reason, if you feel that there is a block as a man that's holding you back from speaking to somebody else about this problem, then at the very least, please start with mindfulness. Please find a mindfulness practice of some sort. Of course, if you come directly to us, we will support you. I will teach you how to do it. In every session that you do with me, I will guide you through it, as long as I'm still doing group coaching. I don't know if you guys got that notice or not. This is the remaining half of this year, is the last half of the year that I'm going to be serving people with group coaching. So that's it, brother. Mindfulness and the stages of your reboot. Moving forward, I'm actually starting to work on another series, and I just want to announce it. And that's going to be ambition and the stages of your reboot. I know many of you listening to this podcast have aspirations of being successful. Whatever success might be you might define it as. It could be financial stability, which you guys know I mention this a lot. It could be financial stability because I don't care how much a man tries to deny it. I don't care how much he tries to say, oh, happiness is more important than this. I have rarely met a man who has no money, who is broke, who is struggling financially, who is happy. And there's some of you who are stuck in an ugly cycle and you all just don't get out. There's some of you who are also making good money and you're also stuck in a cycle because you don't know when enough is enough. I'm going to walk you through the process of ambition and the different stages of your reboot and what I have noticed and how getting into the maintenance stage also equates with success, both financial success, familial success, success in multiple areas of your life. And you're not able to see that or even believe it because you've been in the early stage or middle stage of your reboot for most of your life. Since you hit puberty, you haven't crossed that. So you don't even know. You just know, you're living under a ceiling. And I'm going to show you how to break through that ceiling and see that there are many floors ahead of you. You just never realized it. Thank you guys for listening.
I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Porn Reboot podcast. I'll speak to you later on in the week. If you found this episode helpful, here are 4 ways I can help you with your out-of-control sexual behavior for free. The first way is to grab a free copy of my book, Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men at elevatedrecovery.org, or visit the link in the description below this episode. The second way is, if you're not sure where to start, but you'd like to learn more about my team and I, if you'd like to spend time with like-minded professionals and business owners who are controlling their behavior, then join our free and confidential group, the Porn Reboot group on Facebook. There's a link to join in the description below this episode. The third way is if you need help right now because you have a burning issue, your behavior with pornography is hurting you mentally or emotionally, you're about to lose your relationship, you want to live up to your potential, be an authentic man, and free yourself from shame, guilt, and underachieving, then click on the link in the description below this episode that says free coaching call. And the fourth way is to leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy this podcast, so that we can reach more men who are struggling in silence and bring back the lessons we learn from coaching them to freedom.